Is the U.S. finally agreeing to provide Ukraine with some serious long-range firepower? Just how will it impact the war? And why is Russia so worried about it? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about this pretty interesting story. Okay, so this is for, according to Reuters, there's leaked reports that Ukraine is close to reaching a deal to get the long-range JASSM missile from the United States. Now, this is probably one of the most advanced and one of the most recently developed cruise missiles that Kiev has gotten or could get, right? And this, of course, JSAM is Joint Surface Air-to-Surface Standoff Missiles, right? Standoff in military parlance means a long way away from the enemy, right? And this is, of course, supposedly going to be part of a weapons package announced in the fall, but the final decision has yet to be reached. Of course, General Ben Hodges, who was formerly a U.S. Army Europe commander, but has now become an independent voice, sort of weighing in on the Ukraine conflict, has repeatedly urged Washington to provide Kiev with these long-range type of weapons. And he says, I'm glad they're considering it, but of course, it was an utter failure that these capabilities took more than 2 years to be provided. And this is something that we've also talked about extensively, is that if the U.S. were to take its current parameters in the conflict and sort of bring them back in time to 2 years ago, you would see likely a very different outcome from this Ukraine conflict. But better late than never, as they say. And we're going to talk about, of course, some of the technical specs of this and why this is so game-changing, or potentially game-changing. But first, of course, if you haven't already become a member of combatvetnews.com, this is the way to support the channel. You know that twice a week, we find the uncensored combat videos coming to us fresh from the front lines, and we do a deep dive into what they mean, what they are, the tactics, the units, where it's taking place. We learn as much as we can about the reality of combat in the front lines. And we just saw a video that I've never seen before. It was actually a Ukrainian drone dropping, or really spraying, thermite onto a Russian tree line, something that I've not seen publicly acknowledged at all. So if you want to check out that and a bunch of other crazy videos, you want to become a member. Best of all, it's Labor Day, which means that for another 2 days, you can use promo code LaborDay24. The link's in the description, so you can get the promo code there, and get 10 to 20% off every single tier. So if you haven't, you should. By the way, that promo code LaborDay24 also works on Strike Gum. That's right. We've got a Labor Day sale going on there too. Free shipping on all orders over $50 and 20% off internationally. So again, the link to both in the description. Okay, let's talk about the JSAM, right? JSAM is launched from U.S. aircraft, and it's really recent. Entered service in 2003, but it also has a couple of variants, right? Crucially, in this case, an extended range version called the JASSM ER, which entered service in 2014, as well as an anti-ship derivative, long-range anti-ship missile in 2018. Right, Lockheed Martin's built about 2,000 of these JSAMs, so we've definitely got them to spare. But what's most significant, there's two really significant parts of this. The first is the payload, a 450 kilogram, 1,000-pound armor-piercing warhead. That means that you could put a 1,000-pound bomb onto a target, right? So if you're a Russian oil refinery, right, you've got to think that one of the issues that Ukraine runs into with a lot of its drone fleets, when it sends these waves of drone swarms at Russia, is that the individual warhead per drone is actually fairly small. So it means that those drones have to hit really precisely their target, or there's a chance that or you have to just throw a lot of them and hope that they get something vulnerable, right? Especially in an oil refinery, where if you hit the workers' cafeteria, you've annoyed them, because now they got to eat at a food truck. But if you hit the oil tanks, you've created a crisis level fire in the facility. So the payoff of hitting the thing you want to is huge. But you've got to be really precise with small warhead drones. When you have 1,000-pound warhead, it's a little bit of a better story, right? particularly because, again, it's supposedly stealthy, meaning that it's going to be harder for Russian air defenses to counter it. So you could drop 1,000-pound explosive. As long as you get it in the area of your target, you should be able to really do some serious damage, right? And here's a couple of other key pieces of data. The second most important, though, is the range. The operational range, 370 kilometers for the default model and 1,000 kilometers for the ER, right? And it can be launched from a B-1 Lancer, B-2 Spirit, B-52, F-15, F-16, FA-18, something called the Rapid Dragon, a palletized disposable weapons module. They shove it out the back of a C-130 or C-17. So that is also going to, you notice that these are, again, the F-16s now in the Ukrainian arsenal. And a reminder that the F-16s, again, are now a platform for some of these more sophisticated weapon systems. And because it's standoff, the F-16 can launch them comfortably behind Russian air defenses, keeping themselves relatively safe, right? Now, the final part is a little piece of data here that's tucked away. Let's see if I can even find it. It might be a little tough. There's the guidance system. Here we go. Accuracy. Accuracy is 9 foot 10 inches or 3 meters of CEP. CEP is called circular area probable. And basically it means 50% of the time it's going to land within this circle, right? It's going to land within 3 meters. So that means that about 50% of the time will be outside 3 meters, but you could presume that there's probably about a 99% chance that it'll hit probably within like a 10 meter square. So again, for taking out, you got to think that if you're talking about dropping 1,000-pound bomb within 18 meters or so of your target, you're likely to do very, very well in destroying that target. As long as it's not a hardened bunker, as long as it's not a something either very small or very hardened, you're likely going to really crush that thing. So again, to me, when we look at the kind of targets we'd be talking about, we'd likely be talking about things like supply depots or supply points, where again, you put 1,000 pounds through the roof of a Russian supply depot or a Russian Iskander factory or a aircraft or runway, or again, an oil refinery. You're talking about the potential to really, really do some damage, right? ISW has found at least 225 Russian, what they call military objects or military targets of value, 85% of them not being airfields, again, likely supply hubs, logistics hubs, repair hubs, factories, within range of ATACMS. So even just the standard JSAM launched over Ukrainian airspace would likely further expand the potential targets within Russia that could be in range of existing Ukrainian tech. Now, of course, it's implied that if you're going to give the Ukrainians a tool that can reach deep into Russia, here, by the way, guys, is a map of where 350 kilometers gets you. Doesn't quite get you to Moscow, but if you launched it from inside of Kursk, you get all of Kursk and all the way to Lipetsky. If you launched it from, say, Kupiansk, you'd be looking at somewhere deep in Volgograd, Volgograd, right? And if you wanted to smoke Crimea, I mean, we already know the answer to this, guys. You could launch it from Kherson City, and you would comfortably be destroying everything in Crimea, several dozen kilometers south of Sevastopol, right? So or you could just literally just smoke. Could you smoke the Kursk Bridge? Let's see. If you were to get into Kherson City, yeah, if you were to launch it from... Let's see. If you were to launch it from Zaporizhzhia, oh yeah, you could comfortably take out the Kursk Bridge. Yeah, from inside of Zaporizhzhia, and still be able to be comfortably outside the war zone. There you go. You could literally be in Zaporizhzhia city and still be tearing up the Kursk Bridge with this thing. So this is a really powerful tool, and Russia's mad about it. Russia's in full cope mode. Let's see if we can find it here. right? We've got a bunch of this. Here we go. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that don't joke with our red lines. The Americans know where they are. And this is, again, classic Russian nonsense. You notice that they're not saying this is a red line. As we've talked about, if you really have a red line, it's important to make that as clear as humanly possible to everyone involved. To say, hey, this is our red line. Do not cross it. But the Russians don't want to do that because this isn't really their red line, right? And the fact is, though, this says to us, the Russians are purely in cope mode. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Huge thank you to our Colonel tier members, particularly Barton Baum, Chris Rossi, Stuart Abel, Daniel Brown, Sergei Zinchenko, Chris Holmes, Chris Gorsuch. Really appreciate you guys, as well as all the Lieutenant tier members. Could not do this without you guys. You guys are the ones who make the whole thing possible. I appreciate you so much, and I'll see all you guys in the next one. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. That does actually make a difference. I'll see you. Cheers.